human beings often believe they know who they are. We identify ourselves with our names, our families, our jobs, our likes and dislikes. But beneath all of this lies a deeper reality, often ignored and forgotten. Rumi, one of the greatest poets and mystics of all time, reminds us that the true journey of life is not outward, but inward. He teaches that the self is like an unopened book, and most people live and die without ever reading its pages. The distractions of the world, wealth, status, pleasures, and constant noise, keep us blind to the truth hidden within us. Rumi once said, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." With these words, he points toward a profound truth, that life is not about escaping suffering, but about transforming it into wisdom. Every challenge, every wound, every disappointment carries within it a hidden doorway to understanding ourselves more deeply. Pain, instead of being an enemy, becomes a guide, but to reach this hidden treasure of the soul, Rumi asks us to break free from assumptions, judgments, and the endless chatter of the mind. Silence, he says, is the language of God. All else is poor translation. When we quiet the noise inside and outside of us, when we step beyond the illusions of right and wrong, we begin to see life as it really is, vast, mysterious, and filled with love. This journey is not easy, yet it is the most rewarding path a person can take. Rumi's wisdom serves as a lantern, guiding us toward awakening, healing, and divine connection. His words are not just poetry, they are instructions for living, loving, and becoming whole. The first step on Rumi's path is awakening, an inner stirring that makes us question who we are beyond names, roles, and appearances. Most people live like sleepers, moving through life without truly experiencing it. They chase after success, possessions, or approval, yet remain restless and unsatisfied. Rumi challenges this sleep, reminding us that the real treasure lies within. He says, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open?" This prison is the false identity we build, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Awakening means stepping beyond these limits and realizing that our essence is not bound by labels or achievements. It is pure, vast, and divine. This awakening often begins with discomfort. Life shakes us, disappointments break us, and suffering forces us to look deeper. What once felt secure, our jobs, our relationships, even our beliefs, suddenly feels fragile. Instead of resisting, Rumi invites us to see these cracks as openings. Through them, light enters. Awakening is not about adding something new to ourselves, but about uncovering what was always there, the soul's unshakable truth. Rumi's vision of life does not deny suffering. Instead, it transforms it. He writes, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." These words carry a timeless message: pain is not meaningless. It is a teacher, a mirror, and a doorway to growth. When we experience loss, rejection, or failure, the first reaction is resistance. We try to escape the hurt, to hide it, or to numb it. But Rumi suggests the opposite: lean into it, listen to it, and let it reveal its lesson. Every wound softens the heart, every disappointment humbles the ego, and every struggle deepens our understanding of what truly matters. Pain, when embraced, becomes wisdom. It strips away illusions and awakens compassion. We begin to see that suffering connects us to others, that it dissolves pride and opens space for love. Rumi does not romanticize pain, but he teaches us that nothing in life is wasted, not even heartbreak. When we allow pain to guide us instead of destroy us, it transforms into a source of light and strength. In a world filled with constant noise, endless conversations, and an overload of information, silence often feels uncomfortable, even threatening. Many people run from silence because it forces them to face their own thoughts and emotions. Yet Rumi teaches us that silence is not emptiness, it is a sacred language, the space where the divine whispers. He writes, "Silence is the language of God, all else is poor translation." These words remind us that truth is not always found in speech or books, but in the stillness of our hearts. Silence is powerful because it creates space for awareness. When we are silent, we begin to hear the subtle voice within us, the wisdom of the soul that is usually drowned out by the chatter of the mind. This inner voice does not shout, it speaks gently, urging us toward honesty, compassion, and alignment with our true self. But to hear it, we must be willing to pause, to breathe, and to embrace stillness. In daily life, silence can become a form of practice. Taking a few minutes each day to sit without distraction, to observe your thoughts without judgment, to listen without reacting, opens a door to inner clarity. It is in these moments that solutions to problems often appear naturally, without force. Many people discover that silence does not empty them, instead, it fills them with peace, focus, and a sense of connection beyond the material world. Silence also teaches humility. When we speak too much, we often speak from ego, trying to prove ourselves, control others, or defend our identity. But in silence, the ego loses its grip, and we begin to experience life as it is, not as we want it to be. Rumi suggests that silence allows us to step beyond the limits of language, beyond the arguments of right and wrong, into a field where only truth remains. This is why he said, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That field is silence. When practiced deeply, silence becomes a form of prayer, meditation, and surrender. It transforms from being uncomfortable to being nourishing. Instead of fearing silence, we begin to crave it, because it reconnects us with the essence of who we are. In a noisy, distracted world, silence becomes revolutionary. It heals the heart, sharpens the mind, and aligns the soul with the divine. For Rumi, the highest truth, the ultimate force, and the purest path to the divine is love. Not the shallow love of fleeting attraction or worldly desire, but the love that burns away the self and unites us with something far greater. He describes love as both the fire and the light. It destroys the illusions of ego while illuminating the path to God. Through love, all that is bitter will be sweet. Through love, all that is copper will be gold. In these words, Rumi shows us that love has the power to transform every aspect of human life. True love, in Rumi's vision, is not limited to relationships or romance. It is the force that flows through all creation, the connection between the soul and its source. This love is unconditional, expansive, and eternal. When we love in this way, we begin to see beyond appearances. The flaws of others no longer disturb us, because we recognize the divine spark in every being. Love becomes a lens that transforms the way we perceive the world. Rumi teaches that love demands surrender. To love deeply means to let go of pride, control, and fear. It means allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to open our hearts even when we risk being hurt. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength, because it frees us from the chains of ego. In giving love freely, without expectation, we tap into the limitless well of divine compassion. This is why Rumi often compared the lover to a moth drawn to the flame. The moth does not resist, it willingly dissolves in the light. Love also heals. Where logic fails, where knowledge cannot reach, love creates bridges. A heart filled with love has the power to forgive, to reconcile, and to inspire transformation in others. This is not sentimental love but a sacred force, capable of dissolving hatred, fear, and separation. When we cultivate love, we align ourselves with the deepest reality of existence. the reality that everything in the universe is connected. Ultimately, Rumi's path of love is not about falling in love with a person, but about awakening to the love that sustains the cosmos. To walk this path is to live with compassion, to see God in every face, and to embrace life with gratitude and joy. Rumi believed that when love becomes the center of your being, you no longer need to search for God, because God is already alive within your heart. The ego is one of the greatest obstacles on the path of spiritual growth. It is the voice inside us that says, "I am separate, I am better, I am in control." It clings to status, achievements, and recognition, convincing us that our worth is measured by how others see us. But Rumi warns that the ego is not our true self, it is a mask that keeps us from experiencing real freedom. He writes, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul, even if they come with clouds of sorrow." This acceptance is only possible when we loosen the grip of the ego. The ego thrives on comparison. It constantly tells us that we must compete, that happiness depends on being richer, smarter, or more admired than others. Yet this endless chase leaves us exhausted and disconnected from the truth. Rumi suggests that instead of fighting others, we must fight the ego within. He says the greatest jihad is not against the world outside, but against the illusions of the self. To surrender the ego is to recognize that we are not the center of existence, we are part of a larger whole. Surrender does not mean weakness, on the contrary, it requires great strength. It means letting go of control and trusting that life has a wisdom beyond our understanding. The ego wants certainty and dominance, but surrender invites humility and openness. Rumi compares this to a drop of water returning to the ocean. The drop loses its individuality, but in doing so, it becomes part of something vast, infinite, and eternal. In practical terms, surrendering the ego means living with humility and gratitude. It means listening more than speaking, giving more than taking, and seeking connection rather than domination. It asks us to accept failure with grace, to forgive without pride, and to love without conditions. This surrender transforms not just our relationship with others, but our relationship with ourselves. We stop seeing life as a battlefield to conquer and begin seeing it as a journey to share. Ultimately, Rumi reminds us that the ego cannot survive love, humility, and silence. When we release the ego's grip, we rediscover the essence of our soul, a self that is not limited by fear or pride, but united with the divine. True freedom, he teaches, is not in asserting who we are but in surrendering who we think we are, and allowing the truth to reveal itself. The final destination of Rumi's path is union, the soul's reunion with its divine source. He often described this state as a deep longing, a homesickness of the spirit. "The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you," Rumi writes, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. These lines reveal a profound truth: the divine is not outside of us, waiting to be discovered. It is within us, woven into the fabric of our very being. Unity with the divine is not an abstract idea, it is an experience of oneness that transcends the boundaries of self and other, life and death, heaven and earth. It is the realization that everything we see, everything we love, and everything we fear is part of a single, infinite reality. For Rumi, this unity is not reached through intellect or reasoning but through love, surrender, and devotion. It is not about finding God, but about dissolving into God. This state of unity often comes after the ego has been humbled, after pain has been transformed, and after silence has been embraced. It is the fruit of the entire journey, the moment when the soul awakens to its true nature. Rumi often used the metaphor of the reed flute, cut from the reed bed, producing music only when it is hollow. In the same way, we too must become empty of pride and illusion to let the divine play its song through us. the experience of unity is one of boundless peace and joy. It does not mean that suffering disappears, but that suffering no longer separates us from life. Instead, we see it as part of the whole. It does not mean losing individuality but realizing that individuality is only one wave in the ocean of existence. When the soul unites with the divine, fear dissolves, because there is nothing left to lose. Love overflows, because everything is recognized as sacred. Practically, this unity is glimpsed in moments of awe, gratitude, and deep connection. When we look at the sky and feel wonder, when we hold someone's hand and feel eternity in a single heartbeat, when we fall silent before beauty, these are small openings to the divine. Rumi teaches us to cherish these moments and to live in such a way that the separation between human and divine, lover and beloved, begins to fade. In the end, Rumi's message is clear: the soul's deepest longing is to return to its source. Unity with the divine is not an escape from life, but the fulfillment of life itself. It is where the journey begins and where it ends, the eternal embrace of the soul and the beloved. The journey through Rumi's wisdom is not just a study of poetry, it is a map for living, a lantern for those who seek truth in a world clouded by illusion. From awakening the self, to transforming pain into wisdom, from embracing silence, to walking the path of love, from surrendering the ego, to uniting with the divine, every step is part of a single movement, the return of the soul to its true home. Rumi reminds us that the greatest battles we fight are not against the world outside, but against the illusions within our own minds. The ego convinces us that we are separate, but love teaches us that we are one. Pain tries to break us, but when embraced, it reveals the light hidden within. Noise tries to distract us, but silence reconnects us to the eternal language of the divine. All of these lessons point to a single truth: the soul is not lost, it is only waiting to be awakened. What makes Rumi's wisdom timeless is its simplicity. He does not ask us to escape the world, but to live more deeply within it. He does not promise that life will be without suffering, but he shows us how suffering itself can become the path to transformation. He does not demand that we abandon love, but that we expand it, beyond the limits of desire, beyond conditions, into a love that embraces all creation. In his vision, spirituality is not separation from life, but intimacy with life. It is about learning to see the divine in every face, in every moment, and in every breath. This path is not easy. It asks us to let go of our masks, our pride, and our fear. It asks us to step into silence when the world demands noise, to embrace pain when the heart longs for escape, to surrender control when the ego craves power. Yet Rumi assures us that those who walk this path will discover treasures greater than they ever imagined: peace, wisdom, and a love that cannot be shaken. He writes, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul. Even if they come with clouds of sorrow, they will soon be followed by joy." Ultimately, Rumi's teaching is about wholeness. It is about returning to the place within where we are no longer divided, no longer torn between fear and love, ego and spirit, self and God. In that place, life is no longer a burden to carry, but a gift to celebrate. Pain becomes a teacher, silence becomes a friend, love becomes the path, and unity with the divine becomes the destination. As we close this journey, let us remember that these teachings are not distant ideals, but living truths, waiting to be practiced in daily life. Rumi's wisdom calls us not just to think differently, but to live differently, to awaken, to love, to surrender, and to unite. For in doing so, we do not only find God, we find ourselves.